And
Okay.
now, yeah, now I think it's recorded.
Now I should be working, yeah? Excellent. Sounds good.
Great. Good to see
Very
you
nice.
again. Good to get to talk to you again.
Absolutely. Good to see you too, Kento. It's nice. It's nice. I really like the whole Koan project movement.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I saw your
Yeah.
video also, and yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
So I guess I guess what we can do is we can sort of talk about
mm.
non-duality,
Sure,
um, maybe some example problems or
sure.
obstacles that some people that speak to you previously face.
Mm,
So I guess maybe very quickly what I'll do is I'll introduce myself,
hmm.
um, and then you can do the same, and then
Sure, why not?
like that
Okay,
there's some
let's do it.
context, yeah.
Yes.
So I my name is Hassan, and I founded Spiritual Walks, and essentially my aim is to sort of reignite the spark within individuals to continue to inquire
Hmm.
into the mystery of life and to understand more about life and essentially, in other words, themselves.
Hmm.
Um, and so, we've been friends on Facebook quite some time, Kento, and we share similar sort of content based on non-duality. Even though I also post things that are outside of non-duality, more with like physical improvements and your everyday life. um,
That's very
I,
important, I think. Yes.
yeah, exactly. It's all part of the play as well, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, now we're here. We've decided to go ahead and embark on this sort of Zoom call to share some insights, maybe some stories as well, that we hope that can help other people who will listen to this. So please tell me a bit more about yourself, Kento.
Yeah, sure. My name is Kenta Hori. I'm a founder of a project called Modern Koan Project, which is, I think it's a modern version of Koan system, which is mainly from the Zen tradition. And it's a set of questions that makes the inquirers to look at a certain aspect of our true nature, and it has a lot of variations, and it has been accumulated for ages to and systematized so that it's it becomes the most uh, effective way for people, for inquirers, to uh, realize uh, their true nature, and also embody that realization, and also deepen and making it clearer, their vision, so to call. So
Mm,
I think my concern about it is that it's old. The classic colon system is old, and some part of it is not applicable to our modern life. You know, they're with the material they use is based on what was popular, or what there was in their ages. So it's not like, it's not quite connected to our modern everyday life. Although
mm,
that's the main thing. That's what it's about: our true nature, our everyday life, our everyday suffering, and we will have to just look at it because
yeah,
that is about our true nature. Um,
yeah.
Walking, sleeping, eating, you know, talking with people, suffering, getting angry, those things.
Yeah, yeah. So,
So,
so
mhm,
sorry for the individual who doesn't know what a koan is,
yeah.
how would you describe it?
Okay, so it's in the old days in China. Zen priests used to do special conversations. It's not really special for them, but it's the outside of our everyday rational kind of conversation, and there has been a lot of it. So basically, the teacher or the master uh, suggests or uh, talks about something, or just posts a question, and the student uh, will be asked to answer it immediately. So that dialogue uh, was done a lot in those days. Mm. And some people try to record that in the form of writing. And so those recordings of the writing has been preserved through ages. And that some of them have become book, okay, of the recording of the conversation in a written form. So later, people started to use it as a material for later people to revive or to do the same among later generations of teachers and students. So that's a recorded material of the live conversation between teachers and students of all their ages. So that's what is basically about koans. So it's a recording of
Right.
dialogue between
Okay.
Zen practitioners.
Nice. I think maybe now it's perhaps appropriate to look at an example like a koan,
Okay,
maybe
sure.
something that is old school, because you mentioned how there's
Mm-hmm,
the
mm-hmm,
transition and the
mm-hmm,
update.
mm-hmm.
So maybe let's look at like an older version and maybe a new
Sure,
version and see.
sure. Yeah. So the older version, there are some very basic kind of koans that every teacher in this tradition asks as a starter of this whole koan system. And one of them is the koan mu. It's called muji sometimes. And it goes something like this. I'm not really sure if I'm really precise about it, but it goes like this. So there was a priest called Joshu, and he asks, no, a priest asks him, do dogs have Buddha nature? Mm. And this priest, this master, Joshu, answers just in one word, mu. So that's pretty much how the koan goes. And should I explain how it works?
Please go ahead.
Mhm. So mu in Chinese means nothing or no, probably nothing, no. And so basically, in this context, it seems like this master is answering that there's no Buddha nature. But that's not the point about this koan. It's beyond yes or no, or something or nothing. And so the practitioners are required to be become one with that mu. You can call it a sound, you can call it a word, but the point is that you have to be it to really know the answer or understand it. So how they try it is they um, continue doing mu, 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 something like this. And at first, there's just me that is uttering this word, and this mu that's uttered. But if you really uh, continue doing it in a sincere manner, um, the boundary or the division becomes somewhat not really obvious. Okay. Mm. And first of all, at the point you're doing moo, moo, actually there's no division. Okay, because you are not really thinking about you and this moo. Mm. But somehow it seems for people that you are the reciter and this moo is something that is recited. So the aim is to just break that division by continually doing and continually doing this simple, very simple thing like moo, moo, moo. And at some point, um, so for you to recognize something, it's you need to have this you to observe it, right? So that's still a division, but within that framework of division, you will notice that there is no you that is doing moo. Or in other words, you can say that you and moo are one. Okay, so that's the first part. That's the first part you will go through during this process of koan system. You will know.
So you're saying the first part is more like a sort of mantra.
You can say that it's mantra,
It's like a
although mm, mm, although I'm not sure if that's really that connects to the tradition of mantra. But
right.
surely I can tell that there's some part that are close.
Okay. Okay.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah. No, because I so coming with having a background in the Islamic faith, we have different sort of, let's say, I guess the mainstream way of describing it is mantra, perhaps,
mm,
but they are perhaps prayers,
mm,
or in Arabic it's dhikr or tasbihat, and essentially what it is let's say there's a gratitude one, right? Um, what happens is as you keep repeating the gratitude form or the gratitude word,
mm,
eventually I fully understood where you said that the boundary between the you and the doing
mm.
sort of dissolves a little,
Oh, that
right?
sounds really quite similar to what I've been.
Yeah. And so eventually all there is the doing. There's no one doing it. All there is the doing, and it's just happening on its own sort of thing.
Mhm. Is it something a lot of people, a lot of practitioners of that tradition do?
No, I wouldn't say it's very common, because obviously within the religion of Islam there's different sects as well, and
Okay.
I guess it's also down to the way you are brought up, the way you are taught. Some people do it, some people don't, even though it's something that most Muslims know about and it is recommended to do. Um, so yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess that's the effect that happens, as you focus and you sincerely do it. Because obviously, if you tell yourself, this is a chore and this is a tick box that I have to tick off, as part of my daily routine, then it's not really.
That won't work. That won't work.
It won't
Surely.
work. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
So this single pointedness is something that is needed to experience a breakthrough. Mm.
So you call single pointedness is
Mm.
when that dissolution happens
Mm.
between of the
Mm.
boundary.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
So this dissolution that you speak of is quite interesting,
Mm.
because I experience this sometimes when not through speaking
Mm.
as the act, also through walking, right? This is
Mm.
actually how
Mm.
the whole spiritual walks initiated. So for an example, I would take a walk through the park, right? And as I observe the act of walking. Eventually there's a realization where, once this boundary dissolves, there's the realization that, okay, who is doing the walking? Really, no one is doing the walking. It's happening on its own. And then how is the act where there was the initiator of the I doing the walking, how is the act of walking really different to the clouds moving in the sky? Or, for example, the sun rising, or the sun setting? These are all activities and motions within existence, right? It is just that for some reason there's an identification with this particular action of walking. Right? So it's not only through words, it's also through particular actions as well.
At that point, it seems almost unnatural to suppose just one concrete entity that is separate from all these other things, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Yeah,
doesn't make sense.
It makes total sense of what is happening, but it doesn't make sense to say that this is happening because of, right? It is just a happening. So it's interesting. I mean, I love the fact that, when you look at different traditions and practices, there is this sort of underlying similarity. It's a point, a junction point where all the paths they cross eventually, right? So it's quite beautiful to be able to see this, especially in a dialogue like this.
Sure.
So please tell me then, Kento, we discussed the sort of older versions of the koans, right? How about the newer versions? How do they work?
So one of the points I would mention is that it would be nice if it can be referred in a modern context. So, for example, say, okay, so let's take an example of that koan mu. Okay, so that is certainly done. That's a conversation in old Zen context of old China. So it's based on some terms like Buddha nature. And for some people, this almost something like technical term would be very unfamiliar to them. So the idea of modern koan would be to just extract the essential part or point of it, and then renew it in a modern outlook. So for that koan, I would say if you are angry, you will probably swear at someone. Okay. So I would ask that person to recall the memory of getting really mad at that person, and then come up with one swear word. Okay.
Okay, so just to recap to see if I've understood. So it's more of a so it's relative. So you're saying the newer version of the coin is more relative to the situation or a scenario, right?
Yes.
So if you are angry, come up with a swear word. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and I will have him do the same as they did in the old days. They did with the koan mu. So they recite mu, but instead he can recite or say that swear word with his whole being, and in that way he can know that anger or that swear word is not separate from himself. And what is good about that is that he can relate it to his everyday life. So it's not really only about getting angry. When he is sad, he can cry. And when he is really crying, there's no division. He is crying. he's the tears, you know.
Right.
So that is done. It's you know, in a way, koans are artificial and unnatural because they are making conscious of something that is done unconsciously and naturally in their ordinary life. But if that's the case, they won't be able to recognize that because it's too close, you know. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
As one of the Zen sayings say that not knowing is the most intimate. Fuchi mottomo
Okay.
shinsetsu. And that's one word. So it's the closest point you can be is that you don't know about it.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
you are it. How can you know it? To know
Yeah.
it, there has to be division between you and that thing that is known. So again, it's in koans you artificially divide the two, and then again you try to pull them together, and just notice that it has been one from the beginning. So that's Sorry, I don't know if I'm asking.
No. It's nice. No,
Mm,
it's.
mm,
I think it's good you mentioned that, and I also found it really interesting that you used anger as an example, right? Because usually when someone's angry, people do everything in their power to try and stop being
mm,
angry,
mm.
right? But here you're saying, come up with the swear word, say the swear word, and it's interesting that you're not trying to push anger away, because um, if you were to push anger away, you're kind of somehow enforcing it, really, right? This is really how the mind works. You are adding something to it. I believe, last time we had a conversation like
Yeah.
this, when you try to take something away or out of the mind or out of what you're conscious, you're actually adding something,
That
you
was
know?
quite an interesting finding. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mm,
You know, um, so yeah, it's strange, because conceptually you'd think, okay, I'm going to take something
mm,
away, but
mm,
but but it's the very act of trying to take
mm.
something away is an addition
Yes.
to whatever is going on within the
Mm.
paradigm or within
Yes, you're
within the experience.
adding the thoughts. Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So essentially, we are trying to fully embrace what
Mm,
is happening,
I'm a bit doubtful about that embracing or accepting,
Okay.
because that is still duality. You know, there's you that is embracing it, and there's
Okay.
something that isn't being embraced. So that might be something of the wording, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
so always when you use a word, it's there's limits. But I
Yeah.
would say knowing, or being it would be
Being it.
something, some words that I would use.
Okay.
So
Right.
if you are to really understand anger, you will have to be it,
Right.
without trying to push it off, nor or trying to um, accept it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Because when you try to accept something, there's the implication that that thing which you accept is separate from
Yes,
you.
yes.
Whereas when you say that you are being it, right, or you are not, it's just being, right? There's no separation in the matter. It
Mm,
just is.
mm. That's not pushing off nor accepting.
Right.
Mm,
Yeah.
So that's
Okay.
similar with that koan I previously mentioned, mu. It's not about
Mm.
yes, it's not about no, but it can be
Mm-hmm.
yes or no. Uh, but this time it's an yes without a duality. So if you say yes, or if you just say yes, uh, that's not something about yes and no. That's the yes.
Mm-hmm.
Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Mm. And if you say no, that's not the no of yes and no. That's no.
Okay.
Mm.
Right. right.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah. So, you know, what would you say is an interesting obstacle that you know of, or what would you say are the typical obstacles that individuals may find in the
Mm.
journey
Mm.
of sort of
Mm.
self-realization?
Mm. These days, there are a lot of resources on the internet, and also we can read a lot of books. Just by we can buy it just by pressing a button on Amazon, so it's accessible. It's a good thing that it's more easily accessed, but they can get confused by this flood of information because even if someone, so let's suppose that there's someone called A and there's someone called B. He tried to tell convey the same content, but the wording they use would be totally different. Mm. But still, they're conveying the same thing, the truth about reality. When a practitioner who hasn't really seen it, when they are exposed to these different expressions, there might be some confusion about it because they start to compare them and making their own interpretation of that expression. So that's what I often see. So
Yeah,
one good example is people telling that you're awareness.
yeah,
Probably you've heard about it again a lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
times.
yeah,
Mm. And when I, for my, according to my understanding of that, is that awareness is not something you take as a subject of something or something concrete or something in the framework of division between awareness of something and something that is being aware. So people like Ramana Maharshi, you know, he must have realized that it's not something like that. So, but people can get easily confused about it and think that okay, I'm awareness, so I'm this awareness, and there are things that are being aware, and so it's more like in that case, it's more like this I, the self, is replaced by the concept of awareness. So it's still getting stuck in it, so in the
yeah,
concept of awareness. So that's something always all the time practitioners have to be careful about,
yeah,
that make realization by some people into a concept,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, I see this on so many degrees, what you mentioned here. This is why I always mention, and I have done so in my previous videos, don't be entangled or fascinated by the words. you know Go straight to the source of the words, right?
Exactly, yes.
Very often, because words are essentially a tool we use to communicate, right? And so there will be contradictions, there will be limitations of how something can be described, right? And obviously everyone sees things in a different way, and then they may be pointing towards the same thing, but because they see it differently, two different communication or forms of communication can come out of it. It's quite interesting you mentioned that, because I see this sort of obstacle take place in massive religions.
Mm,
Um, Essentially, the most of the Abrahamic faiths, including Islam, you know, praying 5 times a day is a mandatory act, and it's part of the sort of pillars of
mm,
the religion, right?
mhm,
And so as people engage in prayer, they are taught from a young age that they are praying to God, right? But
mm,
God is also described as that which, is beyond
mm,
imagination, beyond the capacity of the human mind to conceptualize. But you are still telling yourself
mm,
as you get up that you are going to pray to God. And so
mm,
there is some concept, there is some image, something like that,
mm,
right? And so this conceptualization, right, is an obstacle. It entangles. It's very similar to when you say
mm,
that we
mm,
are just awareness,
mm,
right?
mm,
you know People are more entangled with the wording rather than the act itself, because the act itself, if you were to sort of surrender
mm,
to that which is beyond your imagination, to that which is beyond conceptualization, which is referred to as God,
mm,
um, then you would get a somewhat of a similar experience to what we said earlier,
mm,
which you called the one-pointedness, where
mm,
there is the dissolution of the identity,
mm,
with the act,
mm,
and so as you bow down and you prostrate and you do these prayers, right, if they're done sincerely without any form identification,
mm.
then one pointedness takes place. The boundary between the person, or how should I say this, no one is really praying. Prayer just takes place on its own,
Exactly.
essentially.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's funny if people see this video and this part, for example, they hear that there's no boundary and there's just bowing, they will imagine something out of it, and maybe
Yeah.
another. There can be always a possibility for doing
Mm,
that. So it's difficult to do it, convey it in words. So that's why it's almost essential to have a live conversation, first of all, so that someone who has gone through the past, uh, who has already gone passed through the barriers, and gone what has walked that path, can see where that person is really stuck, and to see that it's easier, far easier, to be face to face, rather than reading something that person wrote, because in writing, the writing can sound very, very, uh, can you can almost sound like that, sounds the same like all those people who are authentic. You can copy them, and it's difficult to tell whether you're copying or whether your words are coming from your direct understanding of reality. So that's one advantage of having these kind of conversations, even
yeah.
in the framework of someone who has gone through it and someone who hasn't gone through it yet. Mm. So
Yeah. Yeah.
always, yeah, it's always to have a friend guide, so to speak,
Hmm.
not in the framework of teacher or guru and pupil or students, but friend guide. I
Yeah.
will call it. The
Yeah.
a healthy relationship is that of friends, that can be trusted,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
trust each other, and also guide, because for the conversation to be really successful, one has to know about the process, and so that the one who is trying to go through the same process can know where to walk. Otherwise, he'll get lost. It's like, yeah, it's like climbing a mountain without a map, or climbing a mountain without a guide.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. I definitely agree with the having a friend to sort of discuss or have this dialogue with,
mm,
um because it's such a beautiful process as well. Every conversation I have is so beautiful,
mm,
because there isn't um first of all, it's not a conversation where you're trying to convince someone anything,
No, not at all.
right?
No.
And the second thing is, with that, there is no agreement or disagreement. There just is. And it's just pure exploration, pure exploration. And it's so beautiful because that that sort of egoic entity isn't trying to be something greater than what it is, or trying to highlight itself. It's just a pure flow of exploration. And usually every time a dialogue like this takes place, you come out of it very refreshed in some way,
Sure. Yes. Mm.
and this is exactly why, one of the many reasons why I wanted to go about doing and starting, dialogues like this with yourself, Kento, and creating a platform like the Spiritual Walks.
Mm.
And I'm assuming, this is also similar to why you've wanted to start your
Exactly. Yes.
project.
Yes. Similar. Quite. It's almost same. Yes. As I listen to what you're saying. Yes. And I feel some kind of synchronicity because there's that. You. When did you start that YouTube channel?
Yeah, so I started it quite some time ago, but I didn't actually
I see.
come around to uploading
Mm,
up until the start of this year. So
mm,
from
mm,
around January time, I started uploading frequently on a regular basis.
mm. I see. Okay. So yeah, it's that. What's good about the internet is that we can, you know, put links on it so that we can introduce. Uh, for example, I can introduce you to the viewers of my YouTube channel,
Hmm.
and they can broaden, their view to see what works for them and what won't.
Yeah, exactly. My father used to always say that,
Mm,
because as a young kid, if I was, let's say, naughty, I was out of line, he would sometimes get his friends to speak to me,
mm,
and I would notice this, and I would ask him, why are you getting
mm,
this uncle or your friend to speak to me?
mm,
And he says that sometimes, my words don't come through, but
mm.
their words will, and it's just
Wonderful,
having that fresh perspective, a
wonderful.
different,
Mm,
pair of eyes
mm,
to go through with this
mm, mm,
exploration,
mm,
point towards the same thing from a different angle, perhaps.
mm,
And
mm.
there's always a lot of use in that.
Wow, that's great. You should be proud of your father.
Yeah,
That's great. What you, yeah,
yeah,
are, yeah, just being exposed to a lot of people and having dialogues, and
yeah,
you can find your own way to go. When you climb a mountain, there are a lot of paths. You can go
yeah,
this way, go this way,
yeah.
this way, and
But they all lead to the top.
that's it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Great, Hassan.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah. I
Would you
guess,
like to wrap it up?
maybe, yeah, maybe it's good time to wrap it up. But
Mm.
before, uh, is there a good, maybe a koan that may fall in line with the theme of this dialogue that
Mm.
you'd like to share, that we can
Sure.
all kind of
Yes.
think about?
Okay. Okay. So one of my recent cons that I think it would be effective is to ask, where is it happening? Where is this happening? Okay, so um, so the thing about this illusion is that people take it for granted that there's space and time.
Mm,
Okay, and as an actual as an actuality, well, probably you might know about it, but there's nothing like that, space or time. That's a thought construct. Okay,
mhm.
but it feels like there's some
Yeah,
space that things are happening in. So
yeah,
you can ask while you were doing something, where is this happening? You would say here, but what is here?
yeah,
Or you can
yeah,
ask, when is this happening?
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
You will say now, but what is now?
yeah. You know, it's you know, for those people who may be listening to this, who may think, what are you talking about? All of these years of science and physics, there's no space and time. It's just to maybe clarify things. It's not the work of science that this is sort of debunking or anything like that. As a conceptual thing, um, it's essentially a human construct and a human form of communication science, right? Of perhaps what is happening, but we are saying that there is no here, right? There's no space and time in the way that it is only just a human construct to describe that there is space and time. Aside from that, what is there really, right? And the way I see koans is that you are trying to ask some question that the intellect sort of gets pinned down in
Yeah,
some sense,
exactly.
where
Yes.
it's like, okay, where do I go now, right?
Mm,
Where do I go? And that naturally brings the intellect to a certain stillness, and that stillness is where it's really at, right? And
exactly.
this, to me, isn't very different from, taking a hike, going out into nature and seeing a magnificent view of a mountain range. Because in the same way, it's you are in awe because the intellect is quiet. It doesn't know what to say. It's quiet for that one moment.
Well, you have explained it in a most elaborate way, something that I wanted to explain. So exactly, that's exactly what I want to explain in terms of what koans are. Yes.
Yeah, very
Mm,
nice, very nice. I really liked it.
great. Yeah. So
Well, yeah, Kento,
great. Yeah.
thank you so much for your
It's always
time.
a pleasure to talk with you,
It's
have a dialogue. So shall we do it again sometime?
100%, 100%. Yeah, definitely. Okay, Kento, you have a good evening. Right now, it's the evening or early
It's the
morning for you?
morning in the sun
Early
during the time.
morning.
What about you? Is it evening there? Is it
Yeah,
after?
it's 8 p.m. in the evening. Yeah, yeah,
Great. So have a great
yeah.
evening,
All
Hassan.
right, you have a great
And
day then.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely we'll do it again.
100%. Thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time. Take
Thank you.
care.
All right.
Bye
Thanks.
bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.